Claire Morgan, a 32-year-old teacher from Denver, walks into her family's Christmas dinner expecting warmth, only to be accused of stealing her sister's glory. When she tries to reveal the truth that she's been secretly supporting her parents, she's branded a liar. With time running out, Claire must unravel a web of deceit to reclaim her honor before her family's trust is lost forever. Claire Morgan stepped into her parents' Denver home on Christmas Eve, the air thick with the scent of roasted turkey and pine from the twinkling tree. At 32, she was a high school teacher, known for her quiet resilience and a heart that always put others first. Her life wasn't flashy, she lived modestly, saving for a dream trip to Europe, but she found joy in small acts of kindness, like the monthly checks she'd been sending her parents, Robert and Linda, since June. They were struggling with medical bills, and Claire, without a word, had tightened her own budget to help. She never expected praise, it was just what family did. But tonight, the warmth of the holiday felt like a facade. Her younger sister, Vanessa, 29 and a rising marketing exec, had always been the family's star, charming, ambitious, untouchable. Claire, by contrast, was the steady one, often overlooked. As she hung her coat, her cousin Nate, a laid-back graphic designer, greeted her with a grin. "Ready for the chaos?" he teased. Claire laughed, unaware that chaos was exactly what awaited. Dinner was underway when Vanessa swept in, fashionably late, her designer's scarf trailing behind her. She flashed a smile, setting a bag of gourmet chocolates on the table. "Sorry, had to grab these from that new place downtown," she said, basking in the family's murmurs of approval. Claire bit her tongue. Vanessa always had a way of stealing the spotlight. But when Linda, their mother, began praising Vanessa for her selfless financial help, Claire froze. "Vanessa's been a godsend," Linda said, her voice warm with gratitude. "Sending us money every month for the bills, it's such a weight off our shoulders." Robert nodded, raising his glass. "To Vanessa, our rock." The room clapped, but Claire's heart sank. She'd been the one sending the money, not Vanessa. Since June, she'd quietly transferred $500 a month, skipping her own luxuries to cover her parents' expenses. Vanessa knew Claire had told her in confidence, asking her to keep it quiet. Her pulse quickened. She cleared her throat, her voice unsteady. "Actually, Mom, I've been the one sending the money. Every month since June." The room fell silent. Linda's smile faltered, and Robert's brow furrowed. Vanessa let out a soft laugh, brushing her hair back. "Claire, don't be ridiculous," she said, her tone syrupy. "I've been handling it." "You must have misunderstood." Claire's cheeks burned. "Misunderstood," she repeated, her voice rising. "I told you, Vanessa. You knew I was helping them." Her sister's eyes flickered, but she doubled down, leaning forward with mock concern. "Claire, sweetie, you're confused. I didn't want to burden you with it." The accusation hung in the air like smoke. Linda's face hardened. "Claire, that's enough," she snapped. "Don't you dare try to take credit for your sister's kindness." Robert shook his head, his disappointment cutting deeper than words. "We raised you better than this." Nate, sitting across the table, raised an eyebrow. "Hold up," he said, his voice calm but pointed. "How do you know it's Vanessa? Have you seen proof?" Linda scoffed. "Proof? Vanessa's been nothing but honest. Unlike some people." The jab stung, but Claire clung to Nate's question like a lifeline. She opened her mouth to respond, but Vanessa cut in, holding up her phone. "If it's proof you want, here," she said, scrolling to a PDF. "Bank transfers, every month, from my account." Claire's stomach twisted as her mother peered at the screen, nodding. "See? It's all there," Linda said. Claire lunged forward, her voice desperate. "Let me see that." She grabbed the phone, scanning the document. It looked real: Vanessa's name, the amounts, transaction IDs. But something felt off. The dates didn't align with her own transfers. "This is fake," Claire said, her voice trembling. "You faked it, Vanessa." The room erupted. "Enough!" Robert roared, slamming his hand on the table. "You're embarrassing yourself, Claire. Apologize to your sister, or you're not welcome here tonight." Claire's throat tightened, tears prickling her eyes. She looked at Nate, hoping for backup, but he shifted uncomfortably, caught between loyalty and doubt. Vanessa smirked, folding her arms. "Well, Claire? Got anything to say?" Claire's hands shook as she pulled out her own phone, desperate to show her bank statements. But when she opened the app, a red error message flashed, "Technical issue. Services unavailable." She tapped again, her panic rising. No, come on," she muttered. Vanessa's laugh was sharp. "How convenient. Your proof just happens to disappear?" "Claire, leave," Robert said, his voice final. "You're ruining Christmas." The words hit like a punch. Claire grabbed her coat, her vision blurring with tears, and stormed into the snowy Denver night. As she slid into her car, her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number, "Check your email." "You're not wrong." Her heart raced. Who sent this? What did they know? She drove aimlessly, the city's Christmas lights a blur, her mind spinning. Vanessa had lied, stolen her sacrifice, and turned her family against her. But that text, it was a spark in the dark. Someone believed her. Claire pulled into a 24-hour diner, her resolve hardening. She wasn't done fighting. Not yet. Claire Morgan sat in the dimly lit booth of a Denver diner, the neon glow of a jukebox casting flickering shadows across her face. The clock on the wall ticked past midnight, Christmas Eve slipping into Christmas Day. Her coffee had gone cold, but she barely noticed, her eyes glued to her phone. The anonymous text, "Check your email. You're not wrong," burned in her mind. It was a lifeline, a hint that someone out there knew the truth about Vanessa's deception. But who? And why hide behind anonymity? She opened her email, scrolling through spam and work messages, her heart pounding with every swipe. Nothing stood out. No smoking gun, no proof of her monthly transfers to her parents. Her banking app was still down, locked behind that infuriating error message, "Technical issue. Services unavailable." She refreshed it again, as if sheer stubbornness could force the system back online. Nothing. The universe, it seemed, was conspiring against her. Claire leaned back, rubbing her temples. The diner's hum of clinking dishes, a waitress chatting with a trucker, felt distant, drowned out by the replay of the night's humiliation. Vanessa's smug smile, her parents' cold dismissal, the fake bank transfers flashing on her sister's phone. Claire had spent months quietly sacrificing, skipping vacations, cutting subscriptions, teaching extra classes to help her parents with their medical bills. She'd told Vanessa in a moment of trust, hoping for once her sister might respect her choice to stay humble. Instead, Vanessa had twisted it, claiming the credit and painting Claire as a jealous liar. Her phone buzzed again, snapping her back to the present. Another text from the unknown number, "Look deeper. Sent folder." Claire frowned, her pulse quickening. She opened her email sent folder, something she rarely checked. There, buried among replies to students and bills, was an email she didn't remember sending. Dated June 15, it was addressed to her parents' account with a subject line, "Transfer confirmation." Her breath caught as she opened it. The email was a forwarded message from her bank, confirming her first $500 transfer to her parents' account. The details were unmistakable: dates, amounts, account numbers. She scrolled further, finding 5 more, one for each month through November. Relief flooded her, but it was short-lived. Why were these in her sent folder? She hadn't forwarded them herself. Someone had accessed her account or her phone and sent these to her parents, ensuring they'd see her contributions. But if they had, why did Robert and Linda believe Vanessa? Claire's mind raced. Had her parents ignored the emails, assuming they were a mistake? Or had Vanessa intercepted them somehow, spinning a lie before they could question it? The anonymous texter clearly knew more than they were letting on. She typed a reply, "Who are you? Why are you helping me?" but hesitated, her thumb hovering over the send button. What if this was a trap? Vanessa was cunning enough to play games, to bait Claire into looking paranoid. She set the phone down, glancing around the diner. A man in a corner booth met her eyes for a split second before looking away. Was he watching her? She shook her head, chiding herself. She was exhausted, her nerves frayed from betrayal. Still, the unease lingered. She needed answers, but going back to her parents' house now, with just emails and a broken app, felt like walking into a lion's den unarmed. Vanessa's fake receipts had been convincing, too convincing. Claire needed something ironclad, something her sister couldn't dismiss with a smirk. Her thoughts drifted to Nate, her cousin, who'd challenged Vanessa at dinner. He'd been the only one to question her, but even he'd backed off when tensions spiked. Could he be the texter? Nate was tech-savvy, always tinkering with computers. If anyone could dig into Vanessa's lies, it was him. Claire pulled up his number, hesitating. It was past 1 a.m., and she wasn't sure he'd want to get involved after the blowout. She texted anyway, "Hey, you awake? Need to talk about tonight." Minutes ticked by with no reply. Claire sipped her coffee, grimacing at its bitterness, and opened her banking app again, hoping for a miracle. Still down. She cursed under her breath, drawing a glance from the waitress. "Rough night, hon?" the woman asked, refilling her cup. Claire forced a smile. "You could say that." As the waitress walked away, Claire's phone vibrated. Not Nate, but another anonymous text, "Don't trust the obvious. Vanessa's not alone." Her stomach dropped. Not alone? Was someone else involved in this? Her parents? Unlikely, they'd been genuinely shocked by her outburst. But Vanessa worked in marketing, surrounded by people skilled at spinning narratives. Had she roped in a colleague to forge those receipts? Or worse, was someone closer to Claire, someone she trusted, playing both sides? She thought of her fiancé, Ethan, who was visiting his own family in Boulder. He'd wanted her to come, but she'd insisted on spending Christmas with her parents, hoping to mend old rifts. Now she regretted it. Ethan would have backed her up, seen through Vanessa's act. She called him, needing his voice to ground her, but it went to voicemail. "Hey, it's me," she said, her voice cracking. "Things got bad tonight. Call me when you can." The diner's door jingled, and Claire's eyes snapped up. A woman in a dark coat slipped inside, her face half hidden by a scarf. She sat at the counter, ordering coffee without glancing around. Claire's paranoia flared again. Was this connected? She shook it off, focusing on her plan. The emails were a start, but she needed more. Her parents' bank statements would show the truth, whose account the money came from. The problem was getting access. Robert and Linda barely used online banking, relying on ATMs and paper statements. Claire could ask them to check, but after tonight, they'd likely dismiss her as desperate. Her phone lit up. "Nate, finally." "Yeah, I'm up. That was intense tonight. You okay?" Relief washed over her, but she kept her reply vague. "Not really." "Can we meet tomorrow? I think Vanessa's lying." His response was quick. "I figured something was off." "Noon at my place?" Claire agreed, her mind already spinning with possibilities. Nate might not have proof, but he could help her think straight, maybe even dig into those suspicious PDFs Vanessa had flashed. As she paid her bill and stepped into the freezing night, the anonymous texter's warning echoed, "Vanessa's not alone." Claire glanced over her shoulder, the empty street suddenly menacing. Snow crunched under her boots as she hurried to her car, locking the doors the second she slid inside. She didn't know who was helping Vanessa or why, but one thing was clear: this wasn't just about money. It was personal. Vanessa had always craved the spotlight, but to go this far, to forge documents and humiliate Claire so publicly, felt like more than jealousy. There was a motive Claire hadn't uncovered yet, and it scared her. She drove to a cheap motel, too raw to face her apartment's silence. As she checked in, her phone buzzed one last time. No words, just a photo, a screenshot of Vanessa's fake receipt, zoomed in on a tiny detail, a transaction ID that didn't match standard bank formatting. Claire's breath hitched. Whoever this was, they were handing her a weapon. Tomorrow, she'd meet Nate, confront the lies, and start unraveling the truth. But as she lay in the motel's stiff bed, staring at the ceiling, a chilling thought took root. What if Vanessa wasn't just stealing credit? What if she was hiding something bigger? Claire Morgan woke to the gray light of Christmas morning filtering through the motel's thin curtains, her phone still clutched in her hand. The screenshot from the anonymous texter, a zoomed-in view of Vanessa's fake bank receipt, had kept her up half the night, its implications gnawing at her. The transaction ID was off, a small but glaring flaw that could unravel her sister's deception. But who had sent it? And why were they drip-feeding her clues instead of coming clean? Claire's trust was fraying, but her determination burned hotter than ever. She wasn't just fighting for her parents' respect anymore, she was chasing a truth that felt bigger, darker, than she'd imagined. She checked out of the motel and drove through Denver's snow-dusted streets, the city quiet under a blanket of holiday calm. Her parents' house, with its cheery wreath and glowing lights, loomed in her mind like a battlefield. She wasn't ready to face them yet, not without more ammunition. Her banking app was still down, that maddening technical issue. Services unavailable message mocking her every time she refreshed it. The emails in her sent folder were a solid start, confirming her transfers to Robert and Linda's account, but Vanessa's polished PDFs had swayed the family so easily. Claire needed something undeniable, something that would make her sister's lies collapse under their own weight. Her meeting with Nate was set for noon at his loft downtown, a cluttered space filled with monitors and half-finished design projects. As she pulled into his building's lot, her phone buzzed. Ethan, her fiancé, finally calling back. "Claire, what happened?" he asked, his voice thick with worry. She spilled the story, the accusations, Vanessa's forgery, the anonymous texts, her words tumbling out in a rush. Ethan listened, his silence heavy. "I'm coming back today," he said firmly. "You don't have to do this alone." His support steadied her, but a flicker of doubt crept in. Ethan had met Vanessa's charm head-on before, even joking about her knack for selling ice to penguins. Could he be the texter, watching from afar? She pushed the thought away, ashamed. Ethan was her rock, not a schemer. "Just hurry," she said softly before hanging up. Nate greeted her at his door with a mug of coffee and a wary grin. "You look like you've been through a war," he said, ushering her inside. His loft smelled of burnt toast and ink, a chaotic contrast to the sterile diner where she'd spent the night unraveling. She told him everything, showing him the emails and the screenshot. Nate's brow furrowed as he zoomed in on the transaction ID. "This is sloppy," he muttered, tapping his keyboard. "Banks use specific formats for IDs, letters, numbers, hyphens. This one's got a random underscore. No legit bank does that." Claire's pulse quickened. "So it's definitely fake?" "Looks like it," Nate said, pulling up a sample statement from his own bank for comparison. Whoever made this didn't expect anyone to check closely. But forging documents like this? That's bold, even for Vanessa. He leaned back, scratching his beard. "Question is, why? She's got the family eating out of her hand already." Claire paced, her boots scuffing the hardwood. "That's what I can't figure out. It's not just about looking good. She's gone out of her way to make me the villain. And those texts, someone knows more than they're saying." She showed Nate the anonymous messages, her unease growing as he read them. "Don't trust the obvious. Vanessa's not alone." Nate's eyes narrowed. "This feels coordinated. Like she's got help." "Help?" Claire stopped pacing, her stomach twisting. "You think someone's working with her?" "Maybe," Nate said, his tone cautious. "Vanessa's smart, but forging bank records takes tech skills she doesn't have. And these texts, someone's either trying to help you or mess with your head. Could be the same person who faked her receipts, covering their tracks." The idea hit Claire like a cold wind. Vanessa wasn't a lone operator, she could have a partner, someone feeding her the tools to pull this off. But who? A co-worker from her marketing firm? A friend with a grudge against Claire? Her mind flashed to her parents' neighbor, Greg, a quiet IT guy who'd always lingered too long at family gatherings, his eyes on Vanessa. Could he be involved? Or was Claire's paranoia spinning out of control? Nate offered to dig deeper, pulling up software to trace the anonymous number, but warned it might take time. "Burner phones are tricky," he said. If they're smart, they routed it through a VPN. Claire nodded, grateful but restless. She couldn't sit still, not with the family gathering at her parents' house tonight. Christmas dinner was a tradition, and Vanessa would be there, no doubt spinning her sob story to aunts, uncles, and cousins. Claire had to act before her sister cemented the narrative. She left Nate's loft with a plan: get to an ATM and check her parents' account herself. Robert had given her access years ago, a backup for emergencies, though she'd never used it. If the deposits matched her emails, she'd have proof Vanessa couldn't refute. But as she drove to the nearest bank, her phone buzzed again, an email this time, from an unfamiliar address. "You're getting close. Watch your back." Attached was another screenshot, this one of Vanessa's work calendar, showing a meeting labeled "Discuss Transfers" with someone named T. Larson 2 weeks ago. Claire's hands trembled as she parked outside the bank. T. Larson, Vanessa's boss, a slick executive known for bending rules to close deals. Was he the one helping her? The calendar entry was vague, but it raised a chilling possibility. What if Vanessa wasn't just stealing credit for the money? What if she was skimming from their parents' account, using Claire's transfers as cover? The thought made her nauseous. She'd assumed this was about ego, but money added a new layer of betrayal. At the ATM, Claire inserted her parents' card, her fingers clumsy with nerves. The screen loaded slowly, each second stretching her anxiety thinner. Finally, the transaction history appeared. June, July, August, her deposits were there, $500 each, tied to her account number. But something else caught her eye: smaller withdrawals, $100 here, $200 there, made days after her transfers. They weren't large enough to raise alarms, but they didn't match her parents' usual spending. Robert and Linda were frugal, pinching pennies for meds and groceries. Who was taking the money? Claire snapped photos of the screen, her mind racing. Vanessa had access to their account too. Had she been siphoning funds, banking on their parents' tech illiteracy to hide it? Or was someone else, maybe this T. Larson, pulling strings? The anonymous sender's warning echoed, "Watch your back." Claire glanced around the empty lot, the snow falling heavier now, cloaking the world in silence. She felt exposed, like eyes were on her from the shadows. Her phone rang, startling her. It was her mother, Linda, her voice clipped. "Claire, are you coming tonight? We need to talk about yesterday." Claire hesitated, sensing the trap. Vanessa had probably primed them, framing her as the troublemaker. "I'll be there," Claire said, keeping her tone neutral. "But I'm bringing proof this time." Linda sighed. "I hope you're not planning another scene." The call ended, leaving Claire's resolve steely but her heart bruised. As she drove back to her apartment to prepare, another text arrived: "They're watching you now." No signature, no context, just those 4 words, chilling her to the bone. Claire locked her doors, checking the windows twice. Vanessa's lie was unraveling, but the deeper Claire dug, the more dangerous it felt. Someone was out there, pulling strings, and she was running out of time to figure out who. Tonight's dinner wasn't just about clearing her name, it was about exposing a conspiracy that threatened everything she held dear. Claire Morgan stood in her small Denver apartment, staring at the photos she'd taken of her parents' ATM records. The evidence was undeniable: her $500 monthly transfers were there, etched in digital ink, alongside those mysterious withdrawals that didn't add up. Her sister Vanessa's lie was crumbling, but the anonymous texts, "They're watching you now," had turned her victory bittersweet. Someone was out there, lurking just beyond her sight, and the deeper she dug, the more it felt like she was stepping into a carefully laid trap. Christmas Day was half over, and tonight's family dinner loomed like a storm on the horizon. Claire wasn't just fighting for her name anymore, she was unraveling a scheme that might stretch far beyond Vanessa's jealousy. She paced, her boots scuffing the hardwood, as she pieced together the clues. The fake bank receipts Vanessa had flaunted, the odd transaction ID Nate had spotted, the work calendar mentioning T. Larson, it all pointed to something bigger. Was Vanessa skimming from their parents' account, using Claire's transfers to mask her theft? Or was T. Larson, her slick marketing boss, pulling strings for reasons Claire couldn't yet grasp? The anonymous texter seemed to know, but their cryptic warnings only deepened her unease. Were they an ally, or a puppet master playing both sides? Her fiancé, Ethan, was due back from Boulder any minute, and Claire clung to the thought of his steady presence. She texted him the ATM photos, along with a plea to hurry. His reply, "On my way. Stay safe," was a small comfort, but doubt gnawed at her. Could Ethan be involved? He'd never liked Vanessa's theatrics, but he'd been distant lately, buried in work. No, she told herself, shaking off the paranoia. Ethan was her anchor, not a traitor. Still, the texter's words, "Vanessa's not alone," made trust feel like a luxury she couldn't afford. Claire's phone buzzed, snapping her from her thoughts. It was Nate, her cousin, with a breakthrough. "I traced part of that anonymous number," he texted. "It's a burner, routed through a local server, but I found something else. Vanessa's been emailing someone from a hidden account. Can you meet me before dinner?" Claire's heart raced. A hidden account? That could be the key to exposing Vanessa's partner. She agreed to meet Nate at a coffee shop near her parents' house, grabbing her coat and the USB drive where she'd backed up her evidence: emails, ATM photos, screenshots. The coffee shop was packed with holiday stragglers, the air thick with cinnamon and chatter. Nate was already there, hunched over his laptop, his usual grin replaced by a grim focus. "You're not gonna like this," he said, sliding the screen toward her. He'd hacked into a cloud server. Claire didn't ask how, uncovering emails between Vanessa and an address labeled Teal Consulting. The messages were vague but damning: "Keep the transfers quiet. She's getting suspicious. Need another receipt by Friday. Make it clean." Teal Consulting had to be T. Larson, Vanessa's boss, or someone using his name as a front. Claire's stomach churned. "She's been planning this for months," she whispered. "But why? What's she hiding?" Nate leaned closer, lowering his voice. "There's more. I found a payment trail, small amounts, like those withdrawals you saw, going to an offshore account. It's not in Vanessa's name, but the timing matches your transfers. Someone's funneling money, and she's either complicit or being played." The revelation hit like a punch. Vanessa wasn't just stealing credit, she might be part of a larger scam, draining their parents' savings while pinning the blame on Claire. But before Claire could process it, her phone lit up with another anonymous text: "Don't bring the USB to dinner. They know." Her blood ran cold. How did they know about the USB? Was Nate compromised? She glanced at him, his eyes still on the screen, and hated herself for doubting him. But the fear was real: someone was watching her every move. "I need to get to my parents' house," Claire said, her voice tight. "If Vanessa's there, I'm ending this tonight." Nate hesitated. "Be careful, Claire. If she's got someone like Larson backing her, they won't go down quietly." She nodded, pocketing the USB but leaving it in her car's glove box, just in case. The texter's warning had spooked her, and she wasn't taking chances. As she drove to her parents' house, Ethan called, his voice tense. "I'm almost in Denver, but I just got a weird email from Vanessa. She's claiming you're harassing her, sending threatening texts." Claire gripped the wheel, fury rising. "She's lying, Ethan. She's trying to flip the script before I expose her." Ethan sighed. "I know, but she's got screenshots. They look real." Claire's heart sank. Vanessa was forging more than bank receipts, she was crafting a narrative to bury her. The family's house glowed with Christmas lights, a cruel contrast to the battle awaiting inside. Claire parked, her breath visible in the freezing air, and steeled herself. Vanessa would be at her peak tonight, playing the victim for their aunts, uncles, and cousins. Claire had her emails and ATM photos, but without the banking app back online, it was her word against Vanessa's charm. And if Vanessa's partner, Larson or someone else, was feeding her fakes, Claire needed to outmaneuver them both. She stepped inside, the warmth of the house clashing with the icy tension in her chest. Her mother, Linda, greeted her with a tight smile. "Glad you came," she said, but her eyes darted nervously. Robert stood by the tree, arms crossed, his silence louder than any lecture. Vanessa was in the living room, laughing with their cousin Jenna, her ease infuriatingly perfect. But when she saw Claire, her smile sharpened, like a predator sensing prey. "Oh, Claire," she called, loud enough for everyone to hear. Here to apologize? The room quieted, eyes turning to Claire. She forced a calm she didn't feel. Not quite, she said, holding Vanessa's gaze. I'm here to set things straight. Linda stepped forward, her voice low. Claire, please, not tonight. But Claire shook her head. It has to be tonight, Mom. You deserve the truth. Vanessa laughed, tossing her hair. Truth? You mean your little tantrum from yesterday? Everyone knows I've been helping Mom and Dad. She pulled out her phone, flashing those same fake PDFs. I've got proof, unlike you. The family murmured, some nodding, others looking uncomfortable. Claire's heart pounded, she was walking a tightrope, and Vanessa was ready to push her off. Then the doorbell rang, cutting through the tension. Linda frowned, not expecting anyone, and opened the door. Ethan stood there, snow dusting his coat, his face grim. Sorry I'm late, he said, his eyes locking onto Claire's. But before she could feel relief, he held up his phone. Claire, we need to talk. Vanessa sent me something, texts, from you, threatening her. Claire froze, the room spinning. Vanessa's smirk widened, and Claire realized she'd underestimated her sister. This wasn't just a lie, it was a setup, designed to destroy her credibility before she could strike. The anonymous texter's warning screamed in her mind, they know. Someone had tipped Vanessa off, and now Claire was cornered, her evidence useless against a family ready to believe the worst. But as Ethan stepped closer, his expression unreadable, Claire saw a flicker of something, anger, not at her, but at the lie. Could he be her way out, or was he part of the trap? Claire Morgan stood frozen in her parents' Denver living room, the Christmas lights casting a mocking glow over the scene unfolding before her. Vanessa's accusation that Claire had sent threatening texts hung in the air, a perfectly timed grenade lobbed to detonate her credibility. Ethan, her fiancé, held up his phone, his face unreadable, while the family's eyes bore into her, some with pity, others with outright disdain. Vanessa's smirk was a blade, sharp and triumphant, as if she'd already won. But Claire's resolve didn't waver. She'd fought too hard, uncovered too much, to let her sister's lies bury her now. The anonymous texts, the ATM photos, the forged receipts, they all pointed to a truth she could prove, if she could just hold her ground. Tonight, she'd end this, lawfully, and make sure justice wasn't just served but seen. Ethan's voice cut through the silence, steady but edged with something Claire couldn't place. Vanessa sent me these texts, he said, glancing at her sister. They're supposed to be from Claire, threatening to expose her unless she confessed. But I don't buy it. He turned to Claire, his eyes softening. Show them what you showed me. Relief flooded her, mingling with adrenaline. Ethan wasn't part of the trap, he was her lifeline. She pulled out her phone, her hands steady despite the pounding in her chest, and opened the photos of the ATM records. These are Mom and Dad's bank statements, Claire said, her voice clear, addressing the room. They show every transfer I made, $500 a month, June through November, from my account. Not Vanessa's. She held up the screen, letting the numbers speak for themselves. And these withdrawals, small amounts, right after my deposits, they don't match Mom and Dad's spending. Someone's been taking money. The room stirred, murmurs rippling through aunts and cousins. Vanessa's smile faltered, but she recovered quickly, tossing her hair. Oh, please, she scoffed. You could have faked those photos. I showed everyone my receipts yesterday, Real bank records. Where's your proof, Claire? A broken app and some blurry screenshots? Claire anticipated the jab. Vanessa's confidence was her weakness, she'd overplayed her hand, banking on the family's trust. You're right, the app's down, Claire said, keeping her tone even. But I've got something better. She opened her email, pulling up the forwarded confirmations from her sent folder, 6 months of bank notifications, each detailing her transfers. These came straight from my bank. They match the ATM records perfectly. Can your PDFs say the same, Vanessa? Linda, her mother, hesitated, glancing between her daughters. Claire, this is a lot, she said, her voice shaky. Robert, her father, stepped forward, his brow furrowed. Vanessa, you showed us your receipts. They looked real. What's going on? Vanessa's eyes darted, a flicker of panic breaking through her facade. They are real, she insisted, clutching her phone. She's twisting everything, like always. But Claire wasn't done. She turned to Ethan, who nodded slightly, as if reading her mind. There's more, Claire said, her voice rising with conviction. Vanessa's been working with someone. I found emails, her and Atil Consulting, talking about faking receipts and keeping my transfers quiet. She didn't mention Nate's hacking, keeping him clear of trouble, but held up her phone again, showing the anonymous screenshot of Vanessa's work calendar with T. Larson and discussed transfers. The name hit like a spark. Their cousin Jenna gasped. T. Larson? Vanessa's boss? Heads turned, the family's doubt shifting toward Vanessa. Claire pressed her advantage. Those withdrawals, Vanessa, who's Teal Consulting? Why do they match your fake receipts? Vanessa's face drained of color, her bravado cracking. You're making this up, she snapped, but her voice trembled, betraying her. Robert held up a hand, his patience gone. Enough. We're checking this now. He grabbed his coat, motioning to Linda. The bank's closed, but the ATM's open. Let's see whose account these transfers came from. Vanessa lunged forward, her voice shrill. Dad, you don't need to. She's lying. But Robert's glare silenced her. We're doing this, Vanessa. No more games. Claire, Ethan, and her parents piled into Robert's car, the silence heavy as they drove to the ATM. Vanessa stayed behind, claiming a headache, but Claire saw the fear in her eyes. At the machine, Robert punched in his PIN, the screen glowing in the snowy night. Claire held her breath as he scrolled through the history. June, $500 deposit, Claire's account number. July, August, September, each one hers. Then the withdrawals, $100, $150, tied to a separate account Robert didn't recognize. It's all Claire, Linda whispered, her voice breaking. Every transfer. Vanessa lied. Robert's jaw tightened, his fingers gripping the card. And these withdrawals, they're not ours. Claire's heart ached at their betrayal, but vindication burned brighter. She'd been right, and now they saw it. Back at the house, the mood had shifted. Vanessa was in the kitchen, pacing, her phone pressed to her ear. When she saw them, she froze, ending the call abruptly. Well, she demanded, but her bravado was gone, replaced by a hunted look. Robert stepped forward, his voice low and furious. The transfers were Claire's. Every one. You've been lying to us, Vanessa. And those withdrawals, who's getting that money? The family, gathered in the living room, watched in stunned silence. Vanessa's eyes darted, searching for an escape, but there was none. Fine, she burst out, tears streaming down her face. Yes, I lied. I took Claire's money and said it was mine. But I didn't mean for it to go this far. She sank into a chair, her voice cracking. Tia Larson, he's been pressuring me at work, saying I owed him for a deal that went south. I used some of the money to pay him off, thinking no one would notice. Claire never said she was helping, so I thought I could just take the credit. Claire stared, her anger tempered by pity. Vanessa hadn't just stolen her sacrifice, she'd dug herself into a hole, manipulated by someone worse. You humiliated me, Claire said quietly. You let me think I was nothing, just to save yourself. Vanessa sobbed, but Claire felt no satisfaction. Only resolve. Linda approached, tears in her eyes. Claire, we're so sorry, she said, her voice raw. We should have believed you. We've been blind for too long. Robert nodded, his face heavy with regret. We'll make this right. Vanessa, you're coming clean to everyone and to the bank about those withdrawals. The night ended quietly, the family dispersing with awkward apologies. Vanessa left, promising to face her boss and return the money, though Claire knew trust would take years to rebuild. As she and Ethan drove home, the weight of the fight lifted, replaced by a hard-won peace. She'd cleared her name, not with vengeance but with truth, and that was enough. Her phone buzzed one last time, a final anonymous text, "You did it. Be free." She didn't reply. Whoever they were, they'd helped her find justice. Now, it was time to move forward, her head high, her heart whole.